Welcome to the show. This is Stasia Bliss, blissinthehouse.com. Today's show, Create Your Life, Not Just Babies. I'm going to be talking about one of my books, and after the same title, Embracing Sexual Empowerment, Create Your Life, Not Just Babies. This is a really very potent and powerful topic, close to my heart. And it first came into my awareness when I was reading some various books, one of them being the Magdalene manuscripts. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump right into the topic today. There's only 30 minutes, so let's just jump in. So I happened upon the Magdalene manuscripts. I'd been studying law of attraction, living that way for some time, and started reading about the power and potency of the creative act, and that it is a portal of creation, as we all know, in that we know that children are created through our sexuality and through the sex act. But did you know that also you can create your life in this way? That the two poles, when coming together, create an actual magnetic field that attracts into your life, into your reality, that which you intend. And unfortunately, or fortunately for you, there is a default mechanism in humanity that oftentimes the things that we don't want to create, or that we fear creating, or in the case of people who aren't able to conceive and want to, fear what they cannot do, the default program kicks in when we do not create the intention that we desire and utilize the creative act for the purpose of creating that which we would like. So therefore we create more of what we don't want. Or in the case of sometimes getting pregnant without deciding to, we end up with quite a beautiful gift, as all people who are parents know their children are a gift, but it's definitely a very big responsibility and task, not one that I would ever trade, having two beautiful children myself, but definitely it is a life alteration. So every time you engage in such an act or an experience, you may not want to continue to create more of these beings, or maybe you do. But today I am not talking about creating children, though I will touch on it a little bit, especially for those who may be having some difficulty in that area that they would like. But mostly I would like to talk about the idea of utilizing sex, the empowerment of sexuality to create other experiences in your life. And I'm going to reference Tom Kenyon's Magdalene manuscript. For one, there's a partially channeled book. Those of you who are not familiar with it, Tom Kenyon himself was fairly against the idea of believing channeled material, or thinking it was a little bit hocus pocus or not legit. But he himself, when inquiring about the material regarding Mary Magdalene, feeling very drawn to her, had his own experience where she channeled a 75-page manuscript that is riveting, that is transformative for anyone who has a Christian upbringing or who does not, and would like to know more about this woman and her association relationship with who we know as Jesus the Christ, and what she was to do, what her gifts were there. Now, she speaks in this particular manuscript about being a goddess, a disciple of Isis, in the sex magic of Isis from the Egyptian tradition, and that the armband that she wore, which identified her in biblical times as what they would call a prostitute, was in fact a mistranslation, a misinterpretation by the people in her area, because that was actually a signal that she was pursuing, practicing, studying under the tantric arts, the Egyptian arts of the spinal cord, helping work with that sacred sexual energy, the Kundalini, the life force, to move it up the spine, to create with it. And when she met the man named Jesus, they both recognized in one another's auric field the symbols of those things which they had been studying, and therefore knowing that they were correct energetically for a partnership to be able to continue utilizing this energy for its highest good. And in the case of Jesus the Christ, knowing his mission on the earth, that part of the practices that they engaged in were to strengthen his Ka body, his light body. Ka in the Egyptian tradition, the light body, which can, when it's very strong, look exactly like the physical body they call the Khat, Khat body. And in this, it will help him to withstand the crucifixion and be able to return to appear to those after this significant moment in his journey. Now, when he returned and said, don't touch me yet, I have not yet ascended to my Father, he had appeared in his Ka, in his light body, and was therefore not touchable in that form. But coming back to the topic, the times that Mary and Jesus came together, she has explained in this manuscript that as his divine and sacred counterpart, that their work was to utilize this sacred creative energy to channel it into strengthening his light body. It was a spiritual effort. And it goes in and explains exactly how that is done. One of the things is upon mutual orgasm, there is a magnetic field that is created within the woman's womb that ripples out, and this gives credence to the idea of cuddling after, because when the bodies continue to touch after the act in the magnetic field with intention, that energy, which is cosmic, which is God, Goddess energy, the divine, the 0 point, the field of all creation, ripples out to draw back in the very subject-object energy of the intention. So when I read about this, it was very striking and very empowering to me. There was something in me that just knew that this was right on, that I'd always felt somehow that we were not being told the whole thing, that there was more to our sexuality than we were being told, and anything that we're taught to fear or to have shame around, or that's glorified, or in a commercial sense, any of these things clue me into that there's a deeper mystery there. And I have always known that, and reading this manuscript really helped to open my eyes. And it wasn't until a certain man that I met in my life that had made a comment about needing protection that I suddenly had this fire burst, ignite within my being. I've been in the circles of New Thought, of very aware and conscious people for some time, law of attraction and so forth, doing groups and tending the life that I want with others who know that they have some say in the creation of their reality to an extent that they align themselves with higher will. And so something about the statement was disempowering, saying, they didn't want to have children, they needed to have protection and so forth. So those of you who know me and my personal experiences, stay with me, because this is very important in understanding the specifics around this. And I am by no means encouraging, just free love, free sex without consciousness, without intention. This is a very sacred act. But I also want to empower all of us to realize and recognize the divinity that we are, the God, Goddess beings that we are, and have the potentiality to behave as. And, this is not just in different realms where we're interested in creating more money or a car or a better job or, a partner or whatever. Those are all nice and necessary to an extent, but Also, the experience that we have intimately with another is a very powerful space where we're actually channeling divine energy directly. And that we have the capacity, when we link that up with the mental body, with our intentions, to funnel that into whatever it is that we are feeling so called by the divine to create. And sometimes that is children, but sometimes it is not. So, this subject, Create Your Life, Not Just Babies, is really addressing the lack of empowerment that many of us have shown in this arena, where we feel like we have to use protection for, against unwanted pregnancies, against diseases, and so forth. But let me emphasize here that it is very important, when utilizing the power of intention in this act, that both parties be on the same page 100%. So that means there is some talk, some common intentions. This book that I've written, I would recommend reading together. You can find it on my website, blissinthehouse.com. You can find it on amazon.com, Create Your Life, Not Just Babies. And it's a very short book. It was brought through me in a manner of about 8 days without editing. It just came straight through. And after about the first year, I was still a little hesitant to share it with people because it is so powerful and so potent. I would like to read a little bit out of it for you. First, I would like to address the idea of assemblage points. So some of you might be familiar with the idea of assemblage points from the Toltec point of view. An advanced spiritual initiate called the Toltec Nagual, like maybe you read Carlos Castaneda's work. Anyway, assemblage point is basically talking about the point through which we see our reality. Now, it's basically when two people's assemblage points line up, then they see a similar reality, or are able to create a similar reality together. Now, a realization, and I talk about this in my book, that a very good girlfriend of mine and myself came across this idea of assemblage points, and were really brought to understand it more fully, that when there is an attraction between you and someone else, especially if it's a sexual attraction, that the first thing to do is key to recognize what your common assemblage point is. I think that's being asked of us, because if we don't locate a common assemblage point with someone to whom we're very attracted to, and it might be someone just as a friend, but generally it's that sexual energy, if we instead engage sexually with that person before locating the assemblage point then becomes the sexuality. And nothing new or creative can possibly come through at that point without shifting awareness in the assemblage point, unless you maybe want to have a child with this person. But to locate an assemblage point with another, there needs to be a conversation. You need to find out where your common interests are, where your goals are, what you're heading toward, until you locate where you cross over with each other, what things you're both working on. That thing that's your common assemblage point has brought the two of you together. Now, once that is located, once that assemblage point is found out, then you can vocalize it together. You can speak what that assemblage point is together to solidify that collective point, so that from that point on, you have that as the basis of your relationship. And that point, the relationship may open up. The potential for the next level of creation and connection can happen, even if that is sexual. But it is important to find that connection first before moving into any sort of sexual connection, because oftentimes, as many of you know, if you go into a sexual relationship with someone first, you often miss what that assemblage point was meant to be, and therefore you miss a layer of your relating. So, with that being said, and going into this idea of empowerment in this region, sex is a very powerful thing. Think about it. You can create a whole nother life, a whole nother person with this act. And if we are not careful or conscious about it, then we can also create things that we are afraid of. And which is true in our life in general, that the universe hears us and is creating the thing we're thinking most about, even if it's a fear. I'm going to read from chapter 7 in this book a little bit, because I address in one chapter the women and in another chapter the men. Of course, both are, applicable to both of the statements, but because I'm talking to the masculine, I'm talking to the feminine nature. But in this chapter, chapter 7, to the women, to the goddesses, I call you out. Women, goddesses, this is a shout out to you for you. This is a calling to say, I see you. You are seen. I feel you. You are felt. All that you have been through up to this point, the responsibilities you have felt, carried, played out, all so beautifully, you are acknowledged. You are honored. You have been carrying a piece of the fear, a piece of the disempowerment of sex for a long time. It has been a necessary piece in the equation of life up to this point to enable proper balance in the cosmos and within the body of the all. Nothing is without purpose. Thank you for carrying it. The time is over. You are released from your task of embodying fear during the act of sex, surrounding the act of sex. You have feared for your health, for your body, your life. You have feared that your life would be forever altered if there was one mistake. You have been the allower, the vessel, the carrier. You have been penetrated, taken, entered, and sometimes without your fullest desire or permission. You have been more passive and allowed yourself to be a silent creator. No longer. Hear this now. You are a goddess, a creator with the universe. You create your reality completely. You are the one through which creation happens. You decide at any moment if you will get pregnant, whether your chart says so or not. You decide. You are in charge of your body. You decide if anything passes, anything. This also means that in the creative act of creating whatever you choose, that you can stop it. In the case of man-woman co-creating, you are the vessel for the creation, the bowl that holds the energy as it is magnified and amplified into creation. You are the temple. You are the field. Without you, the feminine force, no creation happens. Become empowered with this knowing, how majestic and glorious you are. Feel now that you are honored by all, as you, the woman, the goddess of the earth, take back your rightful place in balance with the masculine. All that was before is altered. This present moment holds the power. And I go on in the next chapter to address the men in a very similar, though altered to the masculine way. And I'm just going to read a small bit of that. You have carried a detached version of her story, masculine. You have feared shame, disrespect, and not knowing. You have feared lack of control and have thereby often overcompensated with a controlling attitude, stifling your ability to express and enjoy your sexuality. Sometimes, men, you have been used, mistreated, manipulated, and denied affection to ward off sex or bring it on. No longer necessary. You need not ever create anything without your intent. Your intent is active because you are masculine. Your energy is active and does add potency to the feminine principle of creation as vessel. Sex is a creative field. You are hereby released from fear of obligation and dis-ease. You are in charge of your creation. You are a co-creator with another divine being of your choosing. And I'm going to just pause there. If you're interested in reading more, you can pick up this book on my website, blissinthehouse.com, or on Amazon. Create Your Life, Not Just Babies, Embracing Sexual Empowerment. But I want to expand on this a bit more. I want to expand on this because sometimes there have been those of us who have gone down this path, and maybe it seems that we have flawed and that we have in fact thought we made an intention that went awry. I want to speak to this because I know that this has happened in my own life, but I want to explain how. I know through personal experience that when two people come together in a ceremonial sort of way to create with this energy, and it is made fully consciously intended that something other than a baby will be created, some sort of enhancement of your love, the blossoming of your reality, the increase of friendships, the proper nourishment, the harmony in the home, whatever it is that you choose to co-create, is co-created together. Now, if you happen to not choose an intention, even if you're holding it in your mind, if one of you or both of you do not come in with full intent, you have left the door open, especially if you already know you are powerful co-creators and you have been utilizing this technique, and you leave the door open without stating, I promise there are beings waiting for you to come into this portal, to come and be with you, especially because you know of your own power. Not to say these beings aren't beautiful and powerful and wonderful to have join you. They are. And oftentimes they are more a blessing to you than the thing you think you wanted to create. But if you want to know for certainty that you are creating that which you desire, and you're not leaving it up to the universe to give you a child or not, then you need to create consciously, both of you that are involved. Now, as a single person, you may also utilize your own creative sexual energy. You may rise it up the spine. You may direct it consciously toward that of your choosing. But when with another person, yes, says the phone, you are engaged in this act, you must come on the same page, literally, with your intention and mind. I would recommend reading the material, also getting a hold of the Magdalene manuscripts by Tom Kenyon and his wife, Judy, and read a bit more about this. Become familiar with it, especially as conscious individuals in this time. It is important that we are not afraid of our sexual selves, that we know what power we carry. We are empowered by this knowledge, and we utilize it with attention and intention. There's so much more to say about this. I just wanted to bring some attention to this book. The people that have read it have told me it has been life-altering to them, pivotal in their personal empowerment and in their reality, and some have even called it the most important book they've ever read. Now, I cannot fully take 100% credit for the information because, like I said, it came out so quickly, I had no time to think about it. So if I were to call it a channeled book, some people might think that is not something they'd want to read, but it's the closest thing to the truth that I can say, because it did come through so clearly, potently, and quickly, and I did not edit a word of it. And it is short. It's an 89, it's a 44-page book. This is a short one. I've got another 89-page book, The Redefining Relationships. So I'm going to go ahead and close this because my own baby, who I lovingly created without using this tool, because I was not on the same page with the partner that we created with, but we have gotten on the same page thus since him, is calling for me now. So I'm going to close up today's show just about 5 minutes early and say thank you for joining me here. Hope to see you, hear you, feel you next time. This is Stasia Bliss, Bliss in the House. Check out my blog on Blogger. You can reach it through my website, blissinthehouse.com. And I'll catch you next time. Oin shainena soya